Okay, geometry students, in this video we will be looking at two relationships that take place between pairs of angles. Emphasis there on pairs of angles, okay? The angles that we're going to look at today come in sets of two. Your heading today, please copy this in your notes, is complementary and supplementary angles. Please copy this in your notes. Complementary and supplementary angles. I think I said notes. Sorry about that. Complementary and supplementary angles, lesson 2.3, and please include today's date. Okay? I'll wait just a second. Please copy this down. Complementary and supplementary angles, lesson 2.3, and include today's date. That's your heading for today. Now, the first definition that we are going to look at is complementary angles. Okay, so please understand that, and please write this definition down. You are responsible for this definition, so please copy this in your notes, learn it. It is an easy definition, and you need to know it for your Chapter 2 test and any quizzes that we have coming up. Copy this in your notes, please. And this is actually old school math. Most schools teach this in elementary and middle school, so you should have heard of this somewhere already. Okay? Complementary angles are two angles whose sum is 90. Please copy this in your notes. Complementary angles are two angles whose sum is 90. Now, I would like you to write down all of these examples that I give you, please. One more time, complementary angles are two angles whose sum is 90. Please copy this in your notes. If I said the measure of angle 1 is 50, and I said the measure of angle 2 is 90, please copy this in your notes, you would know right away that these two angles are sorry about that, guys. I guess I'm just really dead set on making a lot of mistakes today. 40, there we go. You would know right away that these two angles are complementary because 50 plus 40 is 90. Okay? And so these two angles are complementary. Let me give you another example. You might have an angle that looks like this. Please copy in your notes. Let me fix my ink here real quick. There we go. Here's a right angle. Please copy that in your notes. And for some reason it didn't work. Let's try it again. There we go. Copy this in your notes. Here's a right angle. Okay. And then you're going to draw a ray coming off of it like this. And let's label this angle here, I don't know, I guess we'll call it 60 degrees. Please copy that in your notes. And we're going to call this 30 degrees. Well, you would know right away that these two angles are complementary because 60 plus 30 is 90. One more example. The two angles do not have to be connected. Write this down, please. You can have an angle over here that is 20 degrees. That's probably not a very good 20-degree angle. And then you can have an angle over here that's 70 degrees. Okay? And let's call this angle A. Please copy all of this down, and angle B. Well, 70 plus 20 is 90, so we could say that angles A and B are complementary because their sum is 90. I'm going to wait a couple seconds while you finish this, and then we're going to move on. Again, complementary angles, two angles whose sum is 90. Okay? If I'm going too fast, have the supervising teacher pause the video. We're going to move on. Here we go. The next definition is supplementary angles. Also write this definition down. You are responsible for both of these definitions, this definition right here and this next definition. Supplementary angles, two angles whose sum is 180. Two angles whose sum is 180. Please copy that down. Supplementary angles, two angles whose sum is 180. All right, real quick, I'm going to go a little faster. If I said the measure of angle 1 equals 100 and the measure of angle 2, please copy all of this in your notes. Measure of angle 2 is 80. Well, we would say these two angles here are supplementary because 100 plus 80 is 180. So you could say angles 1, I didn't put an angle symbol here, there we go. You could say angles 1 and 2 are supplementary. Very, very simple. How about this? How about a straight angle like this? Go ahead and draw a straight angle in your notes, okay? And then have a line coming off of it like this. Well, we all know, students, that a straight angle from here to here is 180 degrees. We know that. I mean, we definitely, that's old math. We know that. And so if that's the case, then if I know this right here is, I don't know, 65 degrees, this over here is going to have to be 115 degrees. Well, 115 plus 65 is 180. So you could say these two angles here are supplementary, okay? And the two angles don't have to be attached. You could have a 115 degree angle over here, and you could have a 65 degree angle over here, and you would say that these two angles right here are supplementary because if you add those two angles together, they equal 180. Pretty simple. Let's move on. Complementary angles, their sum is 90. Supplementary angles, their sum is 180. Please understand this. Please take really good notes on this. Now let's work some problems to help drive these terms home, okay? We're going to look at 4 quick problems to help drive these terms home. Here we go. Please take notes on the first one. Please take notes on the second one. And then I would like you to try the next 2 on your own. Here we go. Okay, A is a complement of C, okay? And the measure of angle A is 47 degrees. Find the measure of angle C. Well, students, this is pretty simple. Notice this comment right here. Angle A is the complement of angle C. In other words, another way to say this is angles A and C are complementary. That means they're going to add up to 90 degrees. So if I know one angle is 47, then I simply take 90 minus 47, and I'm left with 43 degrees. So the measure of angle C has to be 43 degrees. And you know how I can check my answer. I simply add 47 plus 43, and I should get 90 because complementary angles always add up to 90. That's really, really simple, guys, okay? All right, let's try another problem. I do want this in your notes. Please copy this in your notes. And now copy this problem in your notes. I'll wait about 30 seconds or 20 seconds while you copy this down. Please copy this in your notes. And then feel free to work ahead or stay with me, whatever you would like to do. But do notice there's been one key word change. Now instead of the two angles being complementary, they are supplementary. Okay. All right, here we go. P is a supplement of R. The measure of angle R equals 36 degrees. Find the measure of P. Well, notice right away these two angles are supplementary. That means they're going to add up to 180 degrees. So if one of these angles, angle R, is 36 degrees, we're just going to take 180 minus 36, and we're going to get 144 degrees. And so the measure of angle P has to be 144 degrees. There we go. We did it. And of course, you can check your answer by adding 36 plus 144, and you will get 180. Okay? So two angles are supplementary when their sum is 180 degrees. Now, students, I'm probably boring you a little bit, but I would rather bore you than lose you. So I want you to very quickly try 2 of these on your own. Again, I know they're simple, but do them. Be glad the math is simple, and let's move on, okay? Here we go. Copy this in your notes and go ahead and try this problem on your own. There's no need to pause the video. I'm going to sit here quietly while you work on this problem. Go ahead and try this on your own, please. Copy it down and go ahead and get the answer in your notes. B is a complement of D. B and D are complementary. Angle D is 79 degrees. Find the measure of angle B. Please copy this in your notes and then solve the problem on your own. Don't forget complement means their sum is 90 degrees. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start working this slowly. If you're not done, keep working. That's fine. I'm just going to slowly start into this. I know that B plus D equals 90, and I know that because B and D are complementary. So I can take this right here and minus this right here, and I will get this right here. So the measure of angle B is 11 degrees. Okay, I want you to try another one on your own. There's no need to pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and just let the video run. Go ahead and copy this in your notes if you would, please. B and D are supplements of each other. And don't forget, supplement means their sum is 180. Okay, go ahead and work on this problem, please. Find the measure of angle B on your own. So copy this in your notes and then find the measure of B on your own. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start working slowly. If you're not done, go ahead and finish the problem. We know that angle B plus angle D is going to equal 180. We know that because they're supplements. So one of the angles is 115. So I'm going to take 180 minus 115, and I'm going to get 65 degrees, okay? Because 115 plus 65 is 180. So the measure of angle B would be 65 degrees, okay? We must move on. We have a lot of notes to take today, so let's continue on. Here we go, guys. Okay, now let's move on to another definition that deals with another pair of angles. Let me pause and emphasize this to you again. When we're talking about complementary and supplementary angles, remember they come in sets of two. They come in pairs of two. Well, this next term that we're going to look at is also a term that comes in sets of two or pairs of two. Okay, and here it is. It's called adjacent angles. Adjacent angles, and here's the definition. Copy this in your notes, please. You need to know this. Copy this down, please. Adjacent angles, two angles that share a common vertex and a common side, but don't share interior points. Two angles that share a common vertex and a common side, but don't share interior points. Now, if you're like most students, this definition does nothing for you, okay? And I understand that. So let me give you a picture of what exactly adjacent angles are. But still, as a math teacher, it's also my job to give you the explanation in words. So I do want this in your notes, and you are responsible to know this on a test or a quiz. But let me go ahead and give you a picture of what adjacent angles are so that you understand, okay? Two angles that share a common vertex and a common side, but they don't share interior points, all right? And here we go. This would be an example of adjacent angles. All right, let's draw a ray like that. Please copy this in your notes, students, if you would. Thank you. Draw that and draw that. There. Isn't that simple? Let's call this angle 1, and let's call this angle 2. And off to the side, I want you to put angles 1 and 2 are adjacent. Would you please write all of this down? Write it down quickly. We're going to move on. We have a lot to do. Copy this down. Angles 1 and 2 are adjacent angles. Now, do you see why? They're adjacent because angle 1 has a vertex right here, and angle 2 has a vertex right here. So let me ask you a question. Are they sharing a common vertex? Yes, and that's what it says. Two angles that share a common vertex, and look what else they have to share, a common side. Well, look at this green here. Angle 1 has a side right here, and angle 2 has a side right here. They're sharing a side, but notice they don't share interior points. In other words, here's the interior of angle 1 right here. Here's the interior of angle 2 right here, and they don't intersect. They don't cross each other, okay? And so there's a picture of adjacent angles, all right? Let me show you what adjacent angles would not be, okay? And I would encourage you to write this in your notes. Let's say you have an angle that looks like this, okay? And then right beside it, you have another angle like this. Now, they're real close, and they look like they should maybe be adjacent, but they're not, because these two angles do not share a common vertex. Here's the vertex of one angle, here's the vertex of the other angle. They don't share a common vertex. And number two, they don't share a common side. This side here is totally different than this side here. Okay, so this is what adjacent angles would not be. Okay, they are not adjacent angles. And you don't have to write this down, but sometimes I'm trying to see if I can move some stuff around here and show you guys something, but it's probably not going to be possible. Let me see if I can do something here without including the other angle. Maybe I can. Well, if I could just turn it a little more, but this would not be adjacent angles either like this, because even if this side fell right on top of this side here, in other words, if one angle looked like this and the other angle looked like this, those would not be adjacent angles because the vertex of this angle over here is right here, and the vertex of this angle right here is right here. They have to share a common vertex and they have to share a common side. I've probably done overkill on this, but I'd rather do that than lose you guys. Let me show you one more thing and then we're going to move on, okay? You don't have to write this in your notes if you don't want to. Just watch this if you would, please. Let me go ahead and grab this and turn this thing, if I can get it to work, and maybe I can. Let's see. I guess not. Okay, let's do this then. Let's go ahead and put another ray right here, and then just sit back and watch this. Angle 1, angle 2, angle 3. Now, I would like you to tell me which of these angles are adjacent. Well, you should say angles 1 and 2 are adjacent. They share a common vertex. Here's angle 1, and here's angle 2, right here. They share a common vertex and they share a common side. But also you could say this. What other angles are adjacent here? Well, I would say angles 2 and 3. Angles 2 and 3 are adjacent. Here's angle 2, right here. Here's angle 3, right here. And they share a vertex and they have a common side. Now, would angles 1 and 3 be adjacent? Well, they share a common vertex. Here's the vertex for angle 1 right here. Here's the vertex for angle 3 right here. But no, they would not be adjacent because they don't share a common side. Here's the two sides for angle 1, and then here's the two sides for angle 3 right here. They don't share a side at all. And so 1 and 3 would not be adjacent. I hope that makes sense, okay? Let me get a drink here real quick. Now, throughout the year, you have heard me mention the word theorems. Well, they should strike fear into your heart. They're not easy, and we are going to look at our first theorems of the year today. And believe me, there will be a lot more of these that you are going to have to memorize. So just determine now to get the job done. We will be learning 2 theorems today. We're going to learn a lot throughout the year, and you're just going to have to learn them, okay, guys? That's what geometry is, okay? It's a big part of geometry. Theorems, definitions, postulates, and corollaries. Now, first, let's address what a theorem is, okay? So copy this in your notes. You need to know this definition, and here it is. A theorem is a true mathematical statement that has been proven. A true mathematical statement that has been proven. I will pause just a minute while you copy this in your notes. A true mathematical statement that has been proven. Okay? A theorem is a true mathematical statement that has been proven. Okay? So we know that it's true because it has been proven in the past. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at our first theorem. Please copy this in your notes. We call this theorem 2.1. And by the way, students ask every year, Mr. Earhart, in other geometry books, is this same theorem called theorem 2.1? And the answer is yes and no. In some books it has a different number, and in some books it would have the same number. So every textbook is different, and every textbook numbers their theorems differently. And also sometimes different books have the theorems worded a little differently, okay? But copy this in your notes. Theorem 2.1 reads, if 2 angles are complementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. So you can take that to the bank. It's true. It's a theorem. It's been proven, okay? And here it is again. Please copy this in your notes. If 2 angles are complementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. Now I'm going to pause while you write this down, and I'm going to show you what this means, okay? But go ahead and copy this down. If 2 angles are complementary to the same angle, then they are congruent, okay? Here's what this theorem means. Please copy this down. Let's say I said to you, write this down, please. Angles 1 and 2 are complementary. Write that down, please. Okay? And then I told you angles 2 and 3 are complementary. Now please look at this carefully. Notice that 1 and 2 are complementary and 2 and 3 are complementary. Let me ask you a question. What angle is 1 complementary to? 1 is complementary to angle what? 2. And what angle is angle 3 complementary to? Well, angle 3 is complementary to angle what? 2. So is it not true to say that angles 1 and 3 are complementary to the same angle? 1 is complementary to angle 2. Now you might say, well, Mr. Error, 2 is complementary to angle 1. That's true, but for right now I'm just looking at it like this. Angle 1 is complementary to angle 2, and angle 3 is complementary to angle 2. So look what it says. If two angles are complementary to the same angle, then those two angles are congruent. So 1 is complementary to 2, 3 is complementary to 2, so 1 and 3 are complementary to the same angle. So here's what I can state. I can state that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Now, let me prove this to you, okay? Watch this carefully. Let's put numbers in here, shall we? Let's put numbers in here. Just, you don't have to do this in your notes, just watch this. Let's say the measure of angle 1 was, I don't know, 50. Well, if the measure of angle 1 is 50, what does angle 2 have to be? Well, it has to be 40 because they have to add up to what? 90, right? They're complementary, so they have to add up to 90. Okay. Now, if angle 2 is 40, then that means this angle 2 down here is what? 40. So what does 3 have to be? 50. There you go. Look at that. Angle 1 is 50 and angle 3 is 50. They're congruent. Listen to me carefully, students. When two angles are complementary to the same angle, then those two angles are congruent. That's theorem 2.1, okay? All right. You're doing well today. Just a couple more notes and we'll be finished for the video, okay? Let me get a drink here real quick. Now here is our second and last theorem of the day. And it's going to be just like the last theorem, except that we use the word supplement instead of complement. So here it is. Copy this in your notes. You do need to know this. Theorem 2.2. If two angles are supplementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. Copy that in your notes. I'll pause for a second while you do that. If two angles are supplementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. If two angles are supplementary to the same angle, then they are congruent. I'll give you a couple more seconds to write this down. Okay, this should make total sense, but I still want you to take notes on this, so write this down, please. We're going to say, write this down, please. Angles A and B are what? Supplementary, okay? And then we're going to say angles B and C are supplementary. Now watch this carefully. Angle A is supplementary to what angle? B. And you could also say that angle B is supplementary to angle A. That's fine. You can say that either way, okay? Angle A is supplementary to angle B. And look at this. Angle C is supplementary to angle what? B. So angle A and angle B are both supplementary to angle B. So look what your theorem says. If two angles are supplementary to the same angle, then those two angles are congruent. So if A is supplementary to B and C is supplementary to B, then A and C are both supplementary to angle B. Thus we know then that angle A would be congruent to angle C. Now quickly let me prove this to you. Let's just throw a number up here for angle A. Let's just say 100 degrees. All right, so angle A is 100 degrees. Now if angle A is 100 degrees, then we should all agree that angle B has to be 80 because these two angles are supplementary, and if they're supplementary, when you add them together you get 180. So if angle B is 80 degrees, then I come over here and I put B is 80 degrees. Now if B is 80 degrees, then C has to be what? 100 because 80 plus 100 is 180, and these two angles are supplementary. Now look at this. The measure of angle A is 100 and the measure of angle C is 100. Thus, excuse me, sorry. Thus, these two angles are congruent. Okay? Guys, I hope this video has made a lot of sense today. If you have any questions, please call or contact me, okay? And make sure you're working really hard and doing well in your notes.